Hello.
Hello. Oh,
hello. What's up, everybody? Thanks for joining us for another My Fantasy podcast. Dan's already trying to hog my camera time here. I'm trying to get the show started, Dan. Jeez, give me a break. My Fantasy podcast, myfantasysportstalk.com. Thanks for joining us. If you're watching us live, we appreciate it. If you're watching the replay, we appreciate that. If you're on YouTube, SoundCloud, myfantasysportstalk.com, the site, appreciate it. If you're listening on WBLZ, we appreciate it. We got all three of us in the house for today's show. Brandon Reed, my other co-host there, Dan Schalk, and Orlando Torres is here from the jump, and we might even have Thomas Take himself, Mr. 4-1 in our fantasy league himself, who just got done thrashing me. Thomas Take might join us too. I'm not making any promises when it comes to Ryan Thomas, though. He's scheduled to be here, said he could be here. He's open, but that doesn't mean he'll be able to connect and get through and communicate to us. So we'll see what happens. But you got the trio here for sure. The newly engaged Dan the Man Schalk. How you been? Congratulations. I knew it on our last podcast, but I just couldn't say anything. Mums was the word, and from what I gather, she said yes.
Yeah, she did, and as soon as that ring went on it, man, things change. And it's all about that wedding planning, which is nothing that I knew about. I didn't know the intricacies of linens and the little details that go into wedding planning, but I'm getting full face of it right now. And I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't regret it. I'll say that. I don't regret it. And it worked out well. I'm looking forward to it. But this planning, it's going to be a little hectic. As you guys could already see, it's affected our show a little bit. Had to miss last week due to some wedding venues, so it was it's pretty crazy. And thank you guys both for being flexible. We saw pre-show Brandon's notes, and he was come prepared to talk some smack last week, and I ruined that for him. So I feel bad, and I'm ready for it this week.
It was going to be a big week, Dan, not to steal your thunder, but I was only 1-3 at that time. Okay. So I still had a little something to say. Fast forward a week, I'm 1-4, and I'm not sure that people give a damn about what I have to say. So it's going to be a lot of you guys talking, but the wedding planning. So you just said you're planning on getting married, but not for a whole year, but your fiance wants to go ahead and get this done. Let's just get it done. You're going on vacation. Let's get it done.
Yeah, we're leaving for Florida tomorrow, which I can't wait to get out of this Buffalo weather where, if you could see, it's rainy, dreary 50s right now. And
it's going to be snowing when you get back.
That's probably isn't too far off. So, yeah, I'm definitely glad to be going to Florida. But there was a goal that she had in mind to get a venue and date booked before we left. And tentatively, that's somewhat set. But let's just say there's a lot of work ahead of us to get this thing planned.
She's going to meet that goal, Dan. She's going to meet that goal. So that's what happened last week. Sorry, we got some loyal listeners that question us about it every time we miss a show, and we do apologize. It is becoming like every other week thing, here with the podcast. It's a special attraction. As we mentioned the last time we were on, of course, I've got new digs, moved into a new house, so still getting situated there. That kept us down over the last month or so and took away from my time. The last podcast me and Dan were on, Orlando couldn't make it. And then, of course, last week, Dan had wedding planning duties to attend to. So now we're even earlier in the day, but appreciate you guys, and we're going to have a good time. Orlando, how's your fantasy football life going, man?
It's up and down. See, I'm in 6th league, so it's kind of hard to keep up with everything, but I have been keeping up with everything. I lost Odell and Clay in 1 week, and I was stuff and Cook in 1 league, but I've been doing pretty decent in our league, and that's what matters the most. I'm right behind Dan in the standings. I'm no longer last place Lando, so I feel like a new man, just like Dan. Engaged Dan. Congrats, Dan, by the way.
Thank you.
I could finally show my face on this podcast without being laughed at least for now. I know 3-2 doesn't sound too good, but in a 14-man league, I'll take it.
3-2 sounds great. 3-2 sounds really good. You're doing great. But you did have a man go down in our league. I know at least one. Chris Carson went down for you. He gone.
Yeah, I had lost Chris Carson. And then Ty Montgomery, so I'm hurting on running backs. So I think I'm down to 2. Literally 2 running backs, and the waiver wire is drier than the desert. So I'm kind of hoping.
Telling me.
yes, see how it goes. Gonna just kind of play with what I got. It's a little bit like Russian roulette sometimes.
Guys, I haven't looked on the waiver wire at all, so I'm not sure that I haven't seen that it's that dry. But you guys should let me know how that waiver wire works. I just look at my bench. And
there he goes. There he goes, Brandon. Look what we got. Look what we got to deal with, Brandon. Mr. 5-0 here.
Mr. 5-0, exactly. He stole the words right out of my mouth, Mr. 5-0. But in the meantime, we had an NBA draft, and I'm feeling great about my team there. But here's the biggest news on the website of the week, I guess, guys, other than the fantasy football articles. Of course, Orlando's manning up and step aside in our predictions piece. But probably the biggest thing we've done this week on the website, myfantasysportstalk.com, has released our NBA predictions piece, where we've predicted all of the playoff teams, the seedings 1 through 8, and who is going to be meeting in the conference finals and the NBA finals, and then who was going to win it. Not only that, we took it a step above in a separate piece and told you who was going to win all the awards. And in that piece, Dan, I was very surprised to see the parity of the selections of all of our guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think this NBA offseason actually kind of opened up a lot of the awards races, at least MVP to me. I mean, Russell Westbrook and James Harden kind of ran away with it last year. But now with superstars on their teams, I wonder how they're going to put up those similar MVP type numbers, especially Russell Westbrook. I mean, I think he's still going to get his, but he's not going to be averaging a triple-double anymore. And James Harden with Chris Paul, is that going to help him get more points, but is his assist going to go down? That's why my MVP prediction, John Wall, I think he's the one true superstar on that team, and he's going to have a Russell Westbrook type season.
It'd be a huge step for him. You know that, though. Huge step. As far as getting respect in the league, too, that's the barrier he has to kind of climb right now, I think. But we'll talk about the individual awards in just a second. First, I want to talk about the way we broke it down. First of all, we were all involved in the myfantasysportstalk.com NBA Fantasy League draft. How are you guys feeling about your teams? Orlando?
I feel pretty confident and a lot better than what I ended up with last season. So again, the season is yet to start, but I thought I made some pretty wiser picks when I could. I mean, I do wish some guys fell to me, but I think we're in a larger league this year compared to last season. So what I ended up with, I kind of like. And honestly, after you took the first pick, it was pretty hard deciding between just those three top guys, between Westbrook, Durant, and even like Curry or someone like that. It was pretty hard, but overall I feel pretty good about my draft.
And you had the second pick, Orlando. So let me ask you guys right quick. Somehow the first pick fell to me. I think I had 2 last year, so I've been pretty good in that regard. But so the first pick fell to me, and the first overall pick in our myfantasysportstalk.com NBA Fantasy League was Giannis Antetokounmpo. Do you guys agree? He was the number 1 rated. That's probably who I was going to take anyway over the other guys, such as Russ, like Dan mentioned, now having the teammates with him. Is he going to have that same kind of season? Same can be said about James Harden. Do you take one of the big mans, Karl Anthony Towns, or do you take Anthony Davis? My pick was going to be Giannis Antetokounmpo all along. Or Dan, do you agree that Giannis should be the number 1 pick overall in most NBA drafts?
He was actually my third. If I had the first overall pick, he would have been my third selection. I had 2 big men, both Karl Anthony Towns and Anthony Davis, ahead of him, and it was mainly just because of our league. Blocks are 2 points compared to rebounds and points, which are 1 point each. But blocks are 2, steals are 2, and I think the way those big men kind of play in the paint, Greek Freak's a great choice. He's going to give you numbers all across the board. But I think if you can get like an Anthony Davis who could put up 6 to 10 blocks sometimes a night, and now it's not that often, but if he does, those are going to be huge numbers. So I like the big men, but I mean, I would have taken Greek Freak happily at 1 overall, at 2, at 3. I knew he wasn't going to last to me. I think I had 7. So I think it's going to be apples and apples at the end of the season. They're going to be pretty close point-wise.
Well, and I think he's the future of the NBA. And he's going to be moving teams eventually. And the reason why I put him above everyone else now, or the reason I think ESPN probably ranked him above everyone else, is because even the guys you mentioned right now, Karl Anthony Towns, Cat Daddy, he now has to share the rock with a few other people, namely Jimmy Butler. So not to mention Andrew Wiggins too, but most importantly, Jimmy Butler, who's moved over to that team. And Anthony Davis has DeMarcus Cousins, who gets a little testy if he doesn't get things his way, sometimes playing beside him. So everyone has a running mate now. That's the thing, and at least in the elite, the NBA, except Giannis Antetokounmpo in Milwaukee. So I think that was the reason why he was probably a top pick overall. But going back to Orlando, he took Russell Westbrook number 2, and I questioned that because I really thought Orlando was a Russell Westbrook hater. But when it comes to fantasy, you got to get them numbers right. You think those numbers are going to be back to roughly what they were last year, Orlando?
Maybe not roughly what they were, but I mean, at the end of the day, he's a man. They gave him that extension. People are really thinking there's going to be this resurgence of Carmelo Anthony, which is I cannot see happening. I mean, other than Paul George, Russell Westbrook's a man. The numbers might not be completely similar, but they're still going to be pretty high numbers. At the end of the day, that's his team, and he's going to take over when he has to.
So let me try to guess your second pick. Was it Draymond Green?
It might have been Draymond Green or C.J. McCollum, one of those guys. But it might have been Draymond Green. And
I think it was because I was looking at him. No, he was your 3rd round pick, so I guess you did take McCollum 2nd overall. I mean second round. Yeah, 23 overall. So Orlando drafted Russell Westbrook, C.J. McCollum, Draymond Green. And he's got LaMarcus Aldridge, Clint Capella, Jeff Teague, Tobias Harris, Willie Hernan-Gomez, Reggie Jackson, Jordan Clarkson, Kent Bazemore, Trevor Booker, Enes Kanter, Alex Lynn, and Corey Joseph. Dan, how do you feel about your team?
I like it. I went into the draft looking at a few things. I think rookies are going to be huge this year, so I actually loaded up on quite a few. I got Ben Simmons, who is considered a rookie, Dennis Smith Jr., who I know you're a fan of, Brandon, Markelle Fultz.
I got the one you really wanted, though, didn't I? Go ahead and admit it. I got the one you really wanted.
No, I actually, in fantasy, I'm not a huge fan of Lonzo Ball. I think he's going to give you assists, but he's going to give you poor shooting, and he's going to give you low point totals. So
you did make a stat rule change correction, though, didn't you?
Yes, yeah. We're not losing points on missed shots like we did last year, and that ultimately bit you with Russell Westbrook just chucking up shots in the 4th quarter like he did best, and of course he missed them.
I will say thank you for that because now I have him, so I'm going to worry about it.
Well, I just got to help last place Lando get above bottom place.
It was the free throws I had a huge problem with, though. You shouldn't miss one whole point for one missed free throw. That I don't know. That really hurt a lot of times. So I understand if it's free, you can't miss free throws. But so John Wall, as you already mentioned, you got him winning the MVP this year. Lou Williams, which is a great 6th man of the year candidate, going to be getting a lot of minutes. Who'd you take in the 2nd round, Dan? Was that Blake Griffin?
Yep, Blake Griffin I took in the 2nd. I mean, he's going to be the main source of income for the Clippers this year, and he's kind of improved his all-around game. I like his assist totals. Obviously, rebounds are there, and I think he's going to be a high-volume point guy.
And you definitely took the rookies. I'm counting Ben Simmons as a rookie too because he is. You got Dennis Smith Jr., who you mentioned, but also Markelle Fultz. Man, big pickup there. I noticed someone else you got on your bench, Dan. A Memphis Grizzly, Tyreke Evans.
I had to support Brandon and Nick Pertins, one of our listeners, and pick up a Memphis guy. He's another guy. I mean, he just overall he's not going to give you a high volume statistics in any one category. But I look in fantasy, I just like guys who fill up the stat sheet.
He maximizes his minutes. He's one of those guys that maximizes his minutes. He could kind of like Zebo did last year, coming off the bench for Memphis. But he's a guy, if healthy, Tyreke Evans can play 18, 19 minutes and probably give you 24, 25 to 30 fantasy points.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for. The one big thing, like you mentioned, is health. He's never really, I don't think, proven to stay healthy the last few years. Actually, I mean, pretty much his whole NBA career. So we'll see how many games he plays. But I think I got him towards the end of the draft. Maybe the 3rd or 4th last round. I'm happy with that selection.
You got several 1-2 punches here, Dan, with Blake Griffin of the Clippers, and then also help me with this one. I'm not even familiar with this player, Milos
Teodosic. He's replacing Chris Paul. I was lucky enough to watch some Clippers preseason, and that dude is going to be special. He is. He was making passes from the other side of the court. He's just going to put on a show passing. He's not going to shoot the best numbers. He'll give me some points, probably around 10 points is what I'm guessing, but he's going to average close to double digit in assists.
There you go. And so you also got another big combo with Ben Simmons, who is listed as a point power forward, but he could play point forward, point guard. And then you also got the rookie Markelle Fultz. So that's another duo. And then you've got Kemba Walker and the newly acquired Dwight Howard. So you're going to be watching very heavily on nights that Charlotte, Philadelphia, and the Clippers play.
Yeah, I'm going big with the Hornets this year. More preseason action. Dwight Howard looks healthy. They're going to give him the minutes.
Look at his bench, Orlando. He's got Cody Zeller and Jeremy Lamb. Talking about going big with the Hornets. He wasn't lying.
Zeller is obviously the backup to Howard. So if Howard goes down, I got that covered. But I think Howard's gonna put up a lot of numbers this year. He's healthy and he's gonna be getting a lot of minutes. And Jeremy Lamb, it went under the radar. I noticed that Nicholas Batum was drafted within the first 4 rounds. He's out. He's out 8 to 12 weeks. With an injury, and it's Jeremy Lamb starting, and I got him, I think, second last round. So I couldn't believe that he's going to be starting for the first couple months of the season, but then when Batum comes back, he's the 6th man. So I'm happy with he can give me the 3-pointers, the quick points in a short amount of time.
Another guy you got on your bench, which I'll probably be playing a lot in daily fantasy, which I like, is Bismack Biyombo.
Blocks, baby. I went strictly for blocks on that one. Blocks, rebounds. Don't need him to score a lot of points. I got other scorers, but he was a guy that's going to be my specialty block guy.
All right, so we'll wrap this up. Talk about my roster real quick. Of course, we mentioned I took the first pick, Giannis Antetokounmpo. Now here's a shout-out for my man Nick Pertins. I've got Mike Conley and Marc Gasol to go with Giannis Antetokounmpo. If those guys stay healthy, if those guys play on the same given night, Memphis and Milwaukee, then watch out. Also picked up Eric Gordon. Should be putting up good numbers as a shooter with Houston if he can get enough touches, but which he should. Kevin Love, he's a good fantasy player regardless of his role, regardless of how he's looked at. He puts up fantasy numbers. He does it all. And don't forget that Isaiah Thomas is going to be out half the year for Cleveland. So Kevin Love should play it. Still a big role. Got Lonzo Ball, the rookie. I disagree with Dan. I think he's going to you're shooting, you may be right, but he is going to be the floor leader and he's going to be Mr. Everything for the Lakers, I think, right from the get-go. And so I think he's going to put up great rookie numbers. Got Dario Saric, Harrison Barnes, De'Aaron Fox, another rookie of Sacramento. I'm not sure exactly if he'll get the green light from the get-go, but we'll see. Derek Favors from Utah. Got Rudy Gay of the San Antonio Spurs just for Orlando. Probably going to, I don't know, he's got to be up there in scoring. Somebody's got to carry the load scoring other than Kawhi Leonard and whatever LaMarcus Aldridge brings in Gasol. So Rudy Gay, Robin Lopez, Evan Turner, Larry Nance, and Joe Ingles, which I didn't draft any of those guys. I've already made free agent waiver wire moves on you guys. I traded in 3 of my draftees for Evan Turner, Larry Nance, and Joe Ingles. So y'all better pay attention. This league's mine. I'm coming with a vengeance this year.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, Brandon. My team name says it all. Last year's champ, and I am last year's champ. So I am the reigning champ, and going into this season power ranking, I'm number 1. I'm up at the top, and everybody else is looking down. So this is the one that you really wanted, Brandon, and I stole it away from you last year, and it felt good. And I'm not going to give it back.
My fantasy football season really started going downhill when I changed my avatar picture to a guy holding this championship ring up, and I haven't won a game since. So just be careful what you ask for. This league is mine. I'm out for blood this year.
Yeah, no comment. I don't need.
Let's move on. No, when nothing said, and you don't hear Orlando say anything either.
Well, I mean, Orlando can't really talk in fantasy baseball yet. He couldn't talk in fantasy football until he started to show it out there, and he's showing it this year. So I guess we're gonna have to wait until about week 4 of the fantasy basketball season before Orlando can start to bash, right?
It's starting next week, so not that much longer.
Okay, so real quickly, let's get this hand cart back on the rail, y'all. Eastern Conference breakdown. We'll start right there. This is our predictions piece, guys. It's up myself, Dan Schalk, Orlando Torres, Colby Gatz, Dylan Davis Trotto, and one of our newer writers, Graham Sweet, are participating in the predictions piece this year. So we'll start out with the Eastern Conference. So we got kind of a flip here. Way over half of us think the Celtics are going to be the number one seed, while Orlando and Colby thinks that no, Orlando is the lone wolf. Okay, so all of us except Orlando think that Boston will remain the number one seed, while Cleveland gets the number 2 seed. Straight across the board, except Dylan Davis Trotto thinks the Wizards will actually finish above the Cavaliers. So, Orlando, you're the lone wolf here. So why do you think Cleveland's going to hit the ground running straight from the get-go and Boston is still inferior? Not saying that I think that the Celtics would beat the Cavaliers in the Eastern Conference Finals, but what makes you think the Cavaliers are going to jump back into that 1 seed now over the Celtics, and keeping in mind that Isaiah Thomas has heard that their point guard situation is going to be a little bit of a mess until after Christmas?
Yeah, I think they're going to have similar records, probably in the high 50s. Maybe both teams will break 60 wins. But, I know it was a completely different Celtics team last year when they were leading the East, and then the Cavs eventually got caught up. And I know even this season, LeBron might even miss the season opener due to injury. But even it's traditional, we've seen the Cavs kind of struggle in the beginning of the season to begin with, and then they kind of just get it on. And as long as LeBron's there and he's healthy, I like some of the depth they picked up. I just think they're still in they still run the East. I know Kyrie's now with the Celtics, but I think I love Kyrie this year, and I think the Celtics are going to be up there, but I just don't think they're going to knock it right out of the park to begin with. And it's going to be fun seeing those Cavs and Celtics games. However many times they play, I could see the Celtics maybe winning, maybe one, maybe splitting it, but I just think as long as LeBron's there, the East still belongs to the Cavs.
Man, I really can't wait to see Kyrie, Gordon Hayward, and Jason Tatum all together, along with everyone else that the Celtics already had. I just think the Cavaliers are going to hit the ground a little bit slow, and the Celtics are going to be just a model of the East from start to finish, just about, and do what they did last year. But the Cavs care nothing about seeding. So check out the piece for everyone's predictions, but we'll talk about our 3 predictions right here. So, Dan, let's go to you. You got the Celtics number 1, Cavs number 2, Wizards number 3, Bucks number 4, Hornets number 5, Raptors number 6. The 76ers will make the playoffs. Not only that, be the 7th seed according to Dan, and the Heat will sneak in.
Yeah, I'm high on a few teams this year. I think Celtics, Cavs 1-2 is kind of a lock, whether that's flip-flopped or whatever. But, the Wizards to me are, next in line as long as Bradley Beal and some of those pieces, Marcin Gortat, if they can stay healthy. I think John Wall is going to take that next step, and you're going to see the Wizards win plenty of games this year. And I like Scott Brooks as coach. He did something that Randy Whitman wasn't really able to do. Got him, I think, a couple playoff series wins last year. So I like the Wizards and Bucks. You got Jason Kidd at head coach. You got the Greek Freak. You got Malcolm Brogdon. Jabari Parker is going to be coming back. So I like the Bucks. Hornets are my team to kind of surprise. I think they're going to be healthy and be pretty solid. I don't know why you are so bad on the 76ers. Why you don't think they're going to win? As long as they stay healthy, they have the talent to be a playoff team. So I know they're young, but they have some pieces like J.J. Redick, some veteran leaders on that team. So I think they're a playoff team in the East. It's not like the East is going to be a super deep conference. So maybe you need to explain your hate for the 76ers. I don't get it.
And then you got the Heat making the playoffs too. So, Dan, our lineups are very, very, very similar. We agree on the first 3 being the Celtics, Cavs, Wizards. Then we flip-flop. No, we didn't flip-flop. Actually, you had the Bucks at number 4, whereas I had them at number 5 because I snuck the Raptors in at number 4. And then we start getting a little different. And here's the reason why I'm not high on the 76ers. It ain't their time. I think the Pacers are more equipped for this. The Pacers have great young talent in Miles Turner, which is going to have a turnaround season. Watch out for him this year, along with Thaddeus Young, who's already been that guy. Darren Collinson and Victor Oladipo, brand new backcourt for these guys. Plus, Bojan Bogdanovic is a pretty damn good player, too. So, all those guys that I just mentioned, they are more seasoned and more veteran over the 76ers. And I need one more year from the 76ers. I love their talent, but it's baby steps. It's baby steps, man. And I think and I'm not high on the Pacers at all. But I think everybody's thinking they lost Paul George and it's over. They acquired some talent. They've got some really good pieces there. And I think that is a better team than Philadelphia out of the gates. And then Miami, kind of the same thing. Man, they were right there last year, had a good record last year, and they brought everybody back. I know they didn't really make any moves, which is surprising. They didn't really better their team, but I think if they stay healthy with the small forward position for the Heat, which is in and out last year, was a revolving door of guys that were going down and going out and everything. But I think Justice Winslow will finally nail that piece. You got Goran Dragic, you got the big man, Hassan Whiteside. I just think they're going to stay at it and be consistent enough to win that 8th spot. But that's kind of where we disagree, Dan, and mostly depending on the 76ers. And you're not alone. I'm like the only guy that didn't pick the 76ers to make the playoffs. I am the only guy that predicted the 76ers, and I understand. You look at the talent, you look at the roster, they look good. They really look good on paper, but I got to see it on the floor, and I snuck the Pacers in there. But I'm with you with the Hornets, and the only I just had them just a step back. We'll see. Again, baby steps. I think the top 4, Celtics, Cavs, Wizards, Raptors, and now even the Bucks are just a little bit more seasoned, and they'll play better and get those seeds. So same thing with Orlando. He just mentioned he flip-flopped the Cavs and the Celtics, and he has Wizards, Raptors, Bucks, along with me. So our 3, 4, 5 are the same. He moved the Heat all the way up to 6. He's got the 76ers at 7 and the Hornets at 8. So I guess I'm the only guy that picked the Pacers too. So that's what we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. I just think the Pacers are more seasoned, but Orlando looks pretty right in line, man. Let's face it. It's 1 and 2, right? And then everybody else, though.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if the Wizards make a jump for 2. You could honestly see that, especially with John Wall and Bradley Beal. Like John
over
Wall's
the
ready
Celtics.
to take the.
Over the Celtics.
They've been Bradley Beal and John Wall have been a come up for a while. I like the Celtics were doing, but it wouldn't surprise
Otto Porter
me.
Too. Wall, Bill, and Porter now.
Yeah, and it wouldn't surprise me they make a jump for in Gortat. And I think after the top 4 seeds in the East, there's a lot of uncertainty. I mean, any of those teams can make the playoffs. They don't need a huge number of wins. And I could see any of those teams go for the 7th or 8th seed. I could see the 76ers not making the playoffs, but I like the talent, the young guns that they got. I like the Hornets, but I wouldn't be surprised either if the Pacers made it, especially with Miles Turner. I like the steps that he's taking.
Yeah, I do. I think he's going to be a big turnaround player. Watch out. He's going to start landing on a lot of people's radar this year. I believe that. So let's talk about who's going to win it all. Really easy right here. I'm not going to spend much time on it because we all got the Cavs over the Celtics. Repeat of last year. Anybody that can throw a wrench in that. Orlando, I guess you're going to say Washington. Anybody else that you see could throw a wrench in that?
No, Washington and maybe the Bucks with Giannis. I know he's still coming up and they're still a young team, but I look at the run they gave Toronto last year, and Toronto usually has problems in the playoffs where they melt down. But I think Toronto could be a pretty scary team if they get the right matchup and if those guys are going. I think they could give one of the top seeds some trouble if that were to happen.
Yep. Dan, anybody that can throw a wrench in this Cavs-Celtics Eastern Conference Finals?
No, don't even need it. I don't think anybody can remotely come close to challenging them. I think those are the 2 teams, and
not even your John Wall.
No, I don't think in the playoffs. I think he's going to have a great regular season. I don't trust the Wizards necessarily in the playoffs. over a seasoned group of the Cavs and now the Celtics, who have been to a conference finals, and who knows if they have that ability to get over the Cavs. And who knows? There's always midseason moves that happen, by the trade deadline, so it could sway it one way or the other. But right now,
injuries.
I don't think so. Yeah.
I think that's the only thing that could sway it for me is I think the Wizards could have a chance. Maybe Toronto, but I'm mostly the Wizards, only if someone really goes down to injury or something like that. But I think we're staring a Cavs-Celtics repeat for the Eastern Conference crown right in the face. So let's move on and talk about the West real quick. I was about to say, if anybody didn't pick the Warriors as the 1 seed, but we do have some surprises here, though, right, Dan?
Yeah, upsetting when I got these submissions of their picks, because it's just
upsetting.
It's just not, it's not anything that's going to happen. Let's just say that it's more wishful predictions than actually picking with what you think is actually going to happen.
So when we all picked the Rockets as the 2 seed, except for Graham Sweet, one of our new guys, and we'll get to him a little bit later. So we mostly all agree Warriors, Rockets. Let's talk about Dan. Warriors, Rockets, there he goes in that Timberwolves bandwagon. Well, that's a huge jump, Dan, from out of the playoffs to the 3 seed. I understand the moves they made, but come on now. Seriously? 3 seed?
Yep. Yeah, I'm on that Timberwolves bandwagon again. I was on it last year. Maybe I'm early with the 76ers this year, and they'll pull it off next year. But this has to be the year. I mean, Tibbs, he's got his man Jimmy Butler. They got rid of trash Rubio. I think in came Teague as their point guard.
That's the problem. You're not even sure, and it's Teague. And
yeah, it is Teague.
I know. I know.
And Andrew Wiggins, I think he's finally going to make that next step with Karl Anthony Towns. I mean, they're going to be able to play defense now. They got veterans, like a Jamal Crawford off the bench. I like where the Timberwolves are at, and I think this is going to be their year to make that leap, get home field or home court advantage for the first round of the playoffs, and go from there. They're not going to advance too much further than the first round, but I expect them to be in that top 4.
I think you were on the Timberwolves bandwagon last year, and you fell off of it and hit your head really hard to put them as the 3 seed. And I think a lot of that is some of your disrespect of the Oklahoma City Thunder. But we'll get.
Yeah, I mean, behind the Warriors, I don't think there's really a good team. I mean, the Rockets are the next best thing, but in the West, I really. And by when I say good team, I mean a team that can actually compete with the Warriors. I don't think it's close.
So you were high on the Rockets last year. You don't think they got much better with Chris Paul?
No, I'm not. I mean, I think they're better enough to be the number 2 seed again, or be the number 2 seed in the playoffs this year. But I mean, Chris, he hasn't won. He doesn't win in the playoffs either. He's gonna take a lot of fouls and. It's just not going to happen.
While I'm thinking about it, you guys saw the rule change, right? No more of that shot flopping, which I brought up on the podcast during the playoffs. You guys saw that, right?
Yeah.
That was ridiculous. They had to address that. So no more of that crap. I mean, Steph Curry got away with one from half court in the playoffs last year. How do you do that? That's ridiculous. So I'm glad to see that was addressed, because if you watched every game or at least every Rockets game of the playoffs, then you saw James Harden got a lot of his points off that bull crap right there. A lot. He had a lot of free throws off that. So glad to see that was changed. But let's move on. Dan, Warriors, Rockets, Timberwolves, Spurs, Thunder, Grizzlies, Nuggets, Clippers. Dan, thank you for including the Grizzlies in your pretty little playoffs there, because most did not. So I appreciate that. Thumbs up. Orlando, he's got the Warriors, Rockets, Spurs, Timberwolves, Thunder, Pelicans, Clippers, Nuggets. Myself, I went with the Warriors, Rockets, Thunder, Spurs, Grizzlies, Timberwolves, Pelicans, and the Jazz. So a little bit of disparity there, a little bit of parity with our picks and predictions there. So Yeah, nothing real big. Both you guys had the Nuggets in, whereas I didn't. I think the Jazz will sneak in there. Orlando, outlook on your Spurs. I noticed you did not have the Grizzlies in the playoffs. You're seriously going to tell me that the Clippers and the Nuggets are better than the Grizzlies?
Look, I wouldn't be surprised if the Grizzlies sneak in 8th, but I can't see them climbing to 7th or 6th. I do like the Gasol and Conley combo. I think they're depending a lot on the health of some of their players. Chandler Parsons, I do like Ben McLemore, but I just, looking at the Clippers, I know they lost Chris Paul, but, I still like what they got with DeAndre Jordan and Blake Griffin. I like that they got Lou Williams and Patrick Beverly. I think that gives them a little bit of an edge. And I do like the Nuggets still with Gallinari. I think they're a bit of a, they're under the radar a lot of times. It wouldn't surprise me the Grizzlies take the 8th seed, but I just can't see them that deep into the playoffs. And that's no disrespect to the Grizzlies.
None taken. Can I predict something real quick? Mark this down. October, 11th, 2017. The Clippers are going to fall apart. Doc Rivers will not be the coach of the Clippers next year. The Clippers are about to tank and fall apart. Just a prediction. Let's move on to the Western Conference Finals predictions. So we've got that out of our system. And what I really wanted to talk about, only thing left to talk about there is what we're about to talk about anyway. So Warriors over the Rockets, the sane panelists and writers, myself and Dan say, I mean, I don't think there's much debate here, but I guess I'm wrong because Orlando thinks that his aging Spurs are somehow, where are they going to move the games to the nursing home or the playground outside so the guys can make it? I mean, I don't know, man. So you got the Warriors over the Spurs. You think basically a repeat of last year. You don't think any of these other teams are going to nick the Spurs?
Oh, okay, maybe the Rockets. I think there's going to be chemistry issues with the Thunder. I do like Russell Westbrook. So, if it's the Warriors over the Thunder, I could see that. I could see the Warriors over the Rockets. But with the Rockets, I mean, Dan just said it earlier. Chris Paul is winning the playoffs, and I think the Rockets are going to have trouble finding that balance. They no longer have Lou Williams. They no longer have Patrick Beverly. I do like Eric Gordon. I do still like some of the remaining pieces that they have. But, finding that balance. And it's no longer a young Chris Paul. It's an aging Chris Paul with the James Harden. And we saw James Harden crumble last year in the playoffs. I know it's a preseason, but I've liked what I've seen so far from LaMarcus Aldridge, especially in interviews. It's not saying much because the regular season hasn't started, but he just seems like a different guy.
Did he just say interviews? You like what you've seen with LaMarcus Aldridge in interviews?
I don't know. You have the Rockets here, so maybe feel differently. It's an aging Chris Paul. I'm just saying, just finding that balance. The Spurs, regardless of them getting out there for being an older team, at the end of the year, they always find their way there. I'm not saying they're going to win it all, but hey, if I'm going to pick a team over the Spurs, it's going to be the Thunder.
How do you like the way LaMarcus Aldridge looks on the basketball floor?
Well, so Orlando here said, yeah, LaMarcus Aldridge interviews in the aging Chris Paul. Everybody on the Spurs has already aged, so I'm just going to put that out there.
All right, we'll stop bashing Orlando because we got way more silliness.
It's what makes this so special is that we know the Spurs are old.
Hey, I'm not even gonna. Orlando is at least in the ballpark of realistic and the real life here. A couple of these guys are not. I don't think so. On the spectrum of silliness, you're not making the cut, Orlando.
No,
so let's move on. You're right there. Okay, I don't know. That's a homer pick for you. I understand. But we got Colby, who seems to think that this is not unrealistic. Okay, if the Thunder sneak in there, some things happen. They'll meet the Warriors in the Western Conference Finals, and the Warriors will beat the Thunder, says Colby Gatz. But now we come to our soccer guy, Dylan Davis Tirado, and our newest writer, Graham Sweet, who are actually picking the Thunder over the Warriors.
It made my head hurt. I popped some Advil when I got this. I can't explain it. I tried to get answers from Dylan, and all he would say is, "We'll see." Well, if you tell me we'll see, well, that's not It's not giving me an explanation that I want to hear. So, Dylan, I'm going to need something a little bit more than that, but it's not anything that's remotely close to happening that's ever even possible. I would say the Grizzlies have a better chance of making it to the finals than the Thunder do.
All right. So let's take that a step further. Those same two guys, DDT, Dylan Davis-Tirado, and Graham Sweet, have the Thunder beating everybody and winning the championship. What?
That would actually favor the Cavs if the Thunder somehow got over the Warriors.
Well, yeah.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I mean, if the Warriors go down, I think that opens up the playoffs. So, I mean, I guess I can envision the Thunder beating the Cavs more than I can envision the Thunder beating the Warriors, even though I don't think they would do either. So, it's astronomically ridiculous. And, you know, I like Dylan and Graham, good guys, good writers for the site, but they gone silly with them predictions, and I let them know about it.
Colby's always been the homer guy. He's picking the Celtics all over the place. He thinks the Celtics will win the East and go to the finals. I think he predicted that last year. Didn't he predict like the Celtics over the Clippers in the championship? In the finals?
Yeah, that was hey, we got pretty close with the Celtics. I think the Celtics have a better chance of winning it all than I do the Thunder.
I would agree with that. Yeah. But anyway, that is how we see the teams breaking down and playing out and who's getting to the finals and who will be competing for the NBA finals come June. So let's get into the awards. Who's going to take home the hardware next? We'll talk about it. This is My Fantasy Podcast from MyFantasySportsTalk.com. Brandon Reed, Dan Schalk, and Orlando Torres here. We're going to wrap up this NBA talk real quick, bring in our man Ryan Thomas, or we hope to bring in our man Ryan Thomas and talk some NFL before the show closes out today. But appreciate you for joining us however you may be joining us. YouTube, the website, MyFantasySportsTalk.com, SoundCloud, or WBLZ Sports at WBLZSports.com. So we all know that Russell Westbrook was the MVP, like I've been telling y'all for 17 months last season. So let's talk about it this year. We already know that Dan has selected John Wall. I would start with John Wall if I had to pick a franchise point guard right now. That's just me. I just love what he does. He's a solid point guard. He brings the defensive presence. He does everything. He dishes, he drives, he shoots threes. He can dunk on you. I love everything he does. Split defenders, whatever. So I like John Wall. I went with James Harden because I'm thinking that he's going to continue. And you could make a case that maybe James Harden got screwed and it was well deserving of a MVP last year. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying you could make that case for that. So I think James Harden will continue to have another great season this year. He may even be closer to averaging the triple-double than Russell Westbrook is this year. I don't think Chris Paul is going to take away from his productivity. I think if anything, Chris Paul is probably going to help him take some of the load off of his shoulders so he doesn't have to do so much and can be a little bit more free with his game. So I think James Harden will be in that discussion again. No surprise here. Homer Orlando Torres got Kawhi Leonard, which is a great pick this year because Kawhi is one of the very few guys that's really not sharing the spotlight anymore. You think about it, Steph Curry, KD, James Harden, Russ Westbrook, even Paul George. All those guys are sharing the spotlight. And Kawhi's really not, because you're not really considering LaMarcus Aldridge or Rudy Gay as sharing the spotlight. You're definitely not considering Tony Parker or Manu Ginobili sharing the spotlight anymore, so he's got a chance. Colby went with a homer pick, Boston. Kyrie Irving, I don't see that. I think Kyrie's going to be an improvement over Isaiah Thomas for Boston, but he's not. I just don't think he's MVP type. He'd have to have crazy numbers. I don't see that type of game from him. Dylan Davis-Tirado went with Kevin Durant. And Graham Sweet, Orlando, you got a little bit of everybody, a little bit of someone backing you up here, Kawhi Leonard. So your pick of Kawhi Leonard is the only duplicated pick, Orlando.
Ha! Homer pick.
You may be right. I mean, Graham Sweet says you're going to be right. So that's interesting, Dan. We all went with different guys except Orlando, and Graham Sweet said it's going to be Kawhi Leonard. It's interesting, though, right? Parity.
Yeah, no, I like seeing it. I honestly, after watching Kawhi go down in the playoffs last year, I think that proved that he was the real MVP. He should have won the award over the phony Russ Westbrook and James Harden. So I think Kawhi probably should have won it last year, seeing how those Spurs played without him. When you actually look at most valuable player, throw me whatever you're going to throw me, Brandon, because I'm not going to hear it. But overall, yeah, I mean, I like it. I think they're all possibilities. Maybe not the Kyrie Irving. I don't even think Kevin Durant, just because there's too many mouths to feed there. And I think it's funny, Dylan Davis-Reynolds is Kevin Durant is the MVP, but he doesn't even have him beating the Thunder in the playoffs. So that was a little questionable.
He must have Steph Curry getting hurt at some point earlier mid-season. That must be his rationale.
Yeah, that's true. If that happens, then that Kevin Durant pick looks a lot nicer.
And the Thunder over the Warriors is more possible.
Everybody on the Warriors can get hurt. Steve Kerr can go in and play the 2 guard, and the Warriors will beat the Thunder.
I'm not so sure about that. I don't know that they're beating the Rockets if that's the case. We'll see. They definitely wouldn't beat Cleveland if they were to make it. I don't think they'd beat Boston either. Yeah. So, man, I'm glad this time of year is here. And the NBA season starts a little bit earlier this year because they're trying to cut out on the back-to-back, so they're bumping the season up like a week and a half, like 10 days or so. So the season actually starts, I believe, Tuesday. Am I wrong?
Yeah, I think so. That's the
17th.
17th, yeah.
So middle of next week. Also, another rule change, you guys, before we get into the Rookie of the Year selections for us. Did you see that they're completely overhauling the way the All-Star game is done? And this has been talked about with other leagues before. The NFL went ahead and did this. I think it's personally silly. I think it's completely changing the tradition and history of the NBA All-Star game. But I also think it could be intriguing, and hey, it's about enjoyment for the fans, so it'll probably work. What they're doing is basically going to follow the NFL model and have 2 team captains. Those 2 team captains picks their team, regardless of conference, mano a mano. So what do you guys think about that, Orlando?
I wasn't a big fan of it. It's basically like a fantasy game. You know, they just pick their guys. I didn't like it for the NFL either. I like the way it traditionally was, East or West, for the NBA, regardless of the stars, you know, what side they heavily favor. I mean, I probably won't even care much. I mean, people pretty much stopped caring for the All-Star game to begin with just the way it was. And with this, you know, I don't think it's going to bring any more fans in than what they were pretty much losing during All-Star weekend.
As a kid, I used to watch the All-Star games because I thought it was just fun. It was a lot of excitement, a lot of action. As I've grown older, it's kind of like the baseball model. I'd watch the home run derby and probably not so much the All-Star game. NBA is the same way now. I'm glued to Saturday night with the 3-point contest, skills competition, and of course the finale, the dunk contest. I'm glued to that, but I really haven't been watching much of the All-Star games anymore. So, but Dan, what are they going to call this thing? They can call this thing Team LeBron versus Team KD?
They can call it Team Stupid. I don't like the idea. I'm not a fan of it. I personally, even before they did this, I'm with you. I don't watch the game. I watch the 3-point shootout and the skills competition. I don't even watch the dunk contest anymore because I don't think it's lived up to what it kind of used to be. It's too commercialized.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. It's too commercialized.
So, yeah, NBA All-Star. I mean, some pitch it as the best All-Star weekend in sports or the best All-Star format. I don't believe so. I'm a little bit of a purist, and I like the MLB All-Star game, not only with the home run derby, but the game itself, where it's not where you get loafing, where there's no defense. They actually try and make an effort.
Yeah,
on every
that's
single play.
That's like the one sport you still can't do that. You can give pretty much 100% effort because A, you're not playing the whole game, and B, it's a non-contact sport. So you're gonna get pretty much a realistic model, a closer realistic model of a true baseball game, a regular season baseball game in that sport than any other.
Right, and that's exactly it. And so, I mean, they can make this change. I'm sure maybe for the younger crowd, it might make it a little bit more enjoyable, but I won't be watching.
All right. So, yeah, just throw that in there. I saw that rule change since, I had pretty laminated and color-coded notes from last week's show there, and we didn't get to do it, so I wanted to mention that this week. But let's move on. We'll end this conversation with our Rookie of the Year and cut out basketball talk, bring Ryan Thomas in hopefully, and then we'll talk some football. So real quick, Rookie of the Year. Dan Shark went with Ben Simmons, and he was topping my list until I realized that he plays with the number 1 pick in the NBA draft this year. Man, those two's got to work it out. You can't have dual. That's kind of like Steph Curry and Kevin Durant there. But I like the pick. I've watched some preseason basketball, and Ben Simmons looks good. I just like him. I like him. It's preseason, and he looks good. For his first taste of NBA action, I like Ben Simmons a lot. I went with Dennis Smith Jr. because I just think he's going to have free reign in Dallas. Dallas is an aging team. As you see, none of us had predicted them to make the playoffs. They're just not on anyone's radar. They're aging. Dirt Nowitzki has really not much left to offer now. You got Harrison Barnes, but that's it. I think Dennis Smith is going to be running that show from the get-go and just putting up massive numbers if he's healthy and plays 82 games or at least close to it. I think he's going to have free reign. Orlando went with Lonzo Ball. That was one of my other top picks. Great selection there because I kind of feel the same way about Lonzo Ball running that show. Colby Gatz went with Ben Simmons. Dylan Davis-Trotter went with Lonzo Ball, and Graham Sweet went with De'Aaron Fox. A little bit of a surprise there. So any surprises there, Dan? Most of it's point guards, it appears to be anyway. De'Aaron Fox, Lonzo Ball. Then I went with Dennis Smith Jr. And I mean, technically Ben Simmons is a point guard too, or it could be.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're all pretty solid candidates. De'Aaron Fox, I think, is a little bit of a stretch, but the other three are going to have the ball in their hands consistently and get consistent minutes. I just, with Fox, I'm not sure of his minutes, and that's the only reason why I kind of question that. Is he going to be able to get 30 minutes a night and put up those type of numbers? So I think it's more up in the air this year than it ever has been. Obviously, you have 2 number 1 picks vying for it, and then besides that, this was an insanely deep draft. In the first 10 picks, so there's a lot of guys that could win the award. So it makes sense to me.
Jason Tatum, I mean, Justin Jackson, a lot of guys. Yes. So Orlando, what do you think? Lonzo Ball's going to be running the show there from day one?
Yeah, got a little bit of a Dan pick there. I just like what he's doing. They're very high on him. And actually seeing after Dennis Smith play, I mean, I kind of like Dennis Smith Jr., so that's a pretty good pick you have there, Brandon. I think, the opportunity he has in Dallas, but I just think Lonzo, it's going to be on him. I like the production for the assists that he could bring and the points, and he's going to have the ball in his hands. They want him to be the man. We're going to see if he is, and for that reason, I think he could be Rookie of the Year, and the fans are already hyped for him. So I just like what Lonzo's going to bring, and I'm excited to see him play in the regular season.
There you go. So for the full awards piece, we ranked them all. We handed out our predictions for the awards through all the categories. But we'll stop right there and tease you and tell you to now go to the website, myfantasysportstalk.com. That's where you can find the predictions piece and see the whole breakdown. One last NBA thing, guys, since we didn't get to talk about it last week, and I made notes about it. Lonzo Ball pulling LaMelo out of LeVar, yeah. I'm getting so confused here, the whole thing. And here's the thing. How good is, what's the middle one's name? LiAngelo? LiAngelo? How good is he going to be when no one even talks about him? I'm not sure anyone even knows what he looks like. So how good is he going to be? But anyway, back to the main thing here. What do you guys feel about? I'm going to go to Orlando because I already know Dan's take. How do you feel about? Do you think this is a good idea? LeVar taking LaMelo out of school as a junior and homeschooling him himself, and smarter dumb.
I think it's dumb. I don't think he should have done that. I mean, I know you gotta, to sell your product, you got to believe in your product. You got to be your product. But I wouldn't do that as far as pulling out LaMelo and homeschooling him and any of that stuff. Just let the kid be. That's just my opinion. I don't think that was a good move.
I've seen him shoot. I don't think it's a good move, but I'm more worried about LeVar teaching him science and geography and English. Probably English at number one. I guess he's going to have enough money to bring him.
I've seen him play, and at least with Lonzo, he passes. I don't think I've seen this kid pass at all.
I'm telling you, the Lonzo, the player currently in the NBA, is the best ball brother by far. It's all downhill from there. That's my true feeling. I just don't think it was good for LaMelo. And like I said, no one even knows what LiAngelo even looks like or what his name is. So, and he's going to be registered as a freshman and be playing for UCLA this year. But we'll see what happens. But that's a whole lot of NBA talk. Appreciate you guys for sticking with us. We promised you NFL mailbag questions. We promised you Ryan Thomas, Mr. Thomas Take is going to be here. So that's what we're going to do next. We're going to talk about all that. You're listening to and watching My Fantasy Podcast from MyFantasySportsTalk.com. Brandon Reed, Dan Shaw, Orlando Torres, and then this guy who's very high on life right now after the performance he put on in our fantasy league and what he did to me. Mr. Ryan Thomas, you know him from Thomas Take and the MyFantasySportsTalk.com Facebook Live podcast he does. And can I just say one thing, man? You probably ended my fantasy football season just like I did to you last year. So congratulations.
Never give up. Never give up hope. You never know what can happen. 1-4, I won my league last year. So you never know.
I thought we were going to break out into a Jimmy V speech. Is it that time of year again?
But you took the Facebook post like a good sport. So I won't rub it in. I won't rub it in. But 4-1, guys. 4-1. That's not.
It's close.
Not a bad record.
Close to my 5-0. Close to it.
It is. But you didn't think it would be close. So
I don't.
There's that.
Look ahead of me, and no one's ahead of me.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here as always.
Yeah, I'm just going to let you guys talk because no one wants to hear anything I say. I'm now 1-4, thanks to Ryan Thomas. I know I started out bad last year and kind of came on, Dan, but I'm not sure I can climb out of this hole. My team just is not good. I mean, I'm not even scoring points. I'm dead last in the league by far in points scored. So
you need more than 50 to 70 points a week to really make an impact. And
is that where I'm going wrong?
Right we should just call you the San Diego Chargers, Los Angeles Chargers.
How about the New York Giants too? That's
well, you got to win. You got that going for you.
It's a long time ago. I don't even remember what it felt like. But, who did I beat? That guy must feel really bad. It was Malachi, wasn't it? I think it was Malachi. Ooh, Malachi. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. And move on. But Ryan, we have got some great fans of the show. They send questions every single week, and when they don't send questions, they just check up on us. It's a couple out of West Memphis, Nick and Judy Pertins. Here's the interesting thing about this couple, Ryan, is that Judy is from the San Antonio area, big Spurs fan. Nick is from the Memphis area, West Memphis, and is a huge Grizzlies fan. So that dynamic in that household is very interesting come basketball season. So but they want to chime in here and just says, hey, MFST crew, you still planning on doing a regular show? You know, Judy and I have been anxiously waiting. Fantasy everything, NFL, NBA, and going down. The NBA is going down, and we want some insight on our teams, Grizzlies and Spurs, of course. So Brandon and Orlando outcomes for this year. Nothing for you, Dan. No soup for you. Besides the lowdown on the Fantasy Football League. Hope to hear from you soon, Nick and Judy. Again, it's kind of hard for us all to get together and make it every single week, which we will try to, and we apologize that we didn't. Welcome. This is Ryan Thomas, another one of our guys. So interesting dynamic there, Nick and Judy. We just kind of went over the NBA for you guys and what we predict and feel. So there you go. And as far as the MFST league, you guys talk about it. Or is it? I guess it's going to be Dan and Ryan in the finals.
Whoa.
Whoever wants to face me is basically the bottom line. So they can really fight it out because I'll be there.
Hey, you guys said my whole point is to just continue to prove you guys wrong. Whether I end up winning it in the end, you guys wrote me off before the season even started. So 4-1, I'm looking week to week. I'm not looking that far ahead. I got to get through whoever I'm playing this week. I don't even know who I'm playing this week, but I'm going to be without Zeke this week, and I'll be putting in Adrian Peterson of the Arizona Cardinals.
Ooh.
We'll see how that works out.
Zeke about to get another loss.
We'll see what
Man,
happens.
I would bash that, but I ain't got many other options myself. I mean, I'm hoping Isaiah Crowell turns into something, and he ain't. Okay, so, but I'm just glad to have you on the show, Brian, I guess, you know.
Yeah, it's good to be here. I had a whole kind of monologue to kind of talk stuff, but you know what? I'm going to be a professional, you know, continue my Facebook Live role on my Fantasy Sports Talk. Be a pro. Act like you've been to the dance before. That's my motto.
Yeah, save that for another day. Nobody want to hear that. So, let's move on to the first question. But thanks, Nick and Judy. I know you guys are loyal listeners, watchers. Appreciate it, and we try to do it every single week. We really will. So the first question comes from. Actually, let me back up. Where were we? Where's my laminated notes here? Okay, I think this is from last week. And actually it kind of moves on. So same guys popping up in questions in 2 different weeks here.
Yeah, they're still relevant.
Yeah, Aaron Jones. So 2 different questions on Aaron Jones from last week. This one comes from Steve Shambaugh. Not sure if you guys know, but Aaron Jones is projected like 15 points in my PPR league. That was last week. That seems high to me, but a lot of guys I've talked to said that he's the back to own for the rest of the season. Thoughts? And so this week, another Aaron Jones question comes up from Jeff DeBarber. Aaron Jones is legit, like a running back 2 in a 12-man standard league. He wants to know. So we'll start out with a new guy, Ryan Thomas. What's your take on Aaron Jones right now?
Aaron Jones is a guy that I really liked as a rookie coming out of college. I think that he's a legit player. Make no mistake about it. This past week, he stepped in for Ty Montgomery. He did very well, fit that offense very well. But depending on how long Ty Montgomery is out, I think that is the ceiling that Aaron Jones has. Once Ty Montgomery is back, healthy, ready to play, I don't anticipate that Jones will have much of a role after that. So for now, Aaron Jones is somewhat a running back 2/3, but once Ty Montgomery is back, I don't see how Aaron Jones will have any relevance inside that Packers offense.
All right, because Ty Montgomery was killing it too. It ain't like that guy's been up and down. He was killing it. I think it's more to do with that Green Bay line this year. They're actually really running the ball. But then there's that other guy who is hanging on Dan's bench who he thought was going to be the guy, another rookie, Jamal Williams. Dan is all right. When are you going to give up on Jamal Williams?
I haven't decided yet. I'm still clinging on for some hope. It would have been his job, except when he came in, when Ty went down, he hurt his knee. So that led way to Aaron Jones coming in and doing well, performing well, and stealing away those touches. So I'm not a huge fan of Aaron Jones' rest of season as an RB2. Kind of what Ryan alluded to. Ty Montgomery is going to be coming back, but the other thing is. He tore it up against Dallas's defense. Dallas's rush defense has been absolutely abysmal this year. They got shredded by C.J. Anderson. They got shredded by Todd Gurley. They're not only dealing with injuries, but if Sean Lee misses games like he is, he's their lifeblood. So
it has been for years. If Sean Lee is out, that Dallas defense that's been that way for 3 or 4 years, it seems.
So you can't really look at Aaron Jones' one performance against probably one of the worst run defenses, even though it's my own Cowboys. Without Sean Lee there, it's not a really telling sign of a regular NFL defense because what they put on the field Sunday really wasn't. So I'm not a huge fan. And then it's just owning a Green Bay running back. Brandon, you've alluded to it on previous shows. Aaron Rodgers is going to get his passes in. They're only going to run so much. I think they're going to try to commit to it, but they never really seem to. So I think he might be a running back too for the next 1 to 2 weeks. But after that, when Ty comes back, he's maybe a handcuff at best.
Yeah, I was going to mention that again this week too. I'm leery of grabbing running backs that play alongside elite quarterbacks. I don't think that's a real smart move. I think it's going to be up and down. It'll drive you crazy, which is why I traded away Devontae Freeman last year. Orlando, I believe you own Ty Montgomery, don't you?
Yeah, and I'm gonna go complete opposite on this. I think Aaron Jones was like the better fit for this role. I just think the way he runs more confident. He's finding his holes. And I like Ty Montgomery, but health has always been the issue. And we're talking about broken ribs. I don't think he comes back in a week or two. I mean, I could be completely wrong, but I think just what we've seen from Aaron Jones, there's no way he doesn't find his way onto the field for the Green Bay Packers. It's hard to see that he doesn't take at least 8 to 10, maybe 12 carries a game away from Ty Montgomery. I can't see Ty Montgomery as a full workhorse back for the Green Bay Packers. I know it's a high-scoring offense. I think Aaron Jones finds his way. And it wouldn't surprise me if Aaron Jones is the lead back. I do like Ty Montgomery. He's on my team. I was trying to get Jamal Williams from Dan. Now I'm trying to chase down Aaron Jones. So just the way Aaron Jones has played, I don't think he goes away. I don't think he's good for 1 or 2 more weeks. I think this is a guy who's going to find himself on the field for the Green Bay Packers. I'm not going to say this is a temporary thing. I do think Aaron Jones is legit. And I know it was against Dallas, and they've got shredded by backs before. But this is what Green Bay needs. They need a run game, and Aaron Jones has been able to provide that.
So as a running back too, that's what Jeff the Barber is kind of asking. Are you that sold every
on a
week in, week out?
RB2? Yeah, he's RB1 as long as Montgomery's out, and I think even when Montgomery comes back in, he's still going to be an RB2 flex guy.
All right. That's Ryan is shaking his head. I guess he agrees. That's a dangerous proposition.
I see your point. It's just that just the way that Montgomery stepped up for them last year, I actually didn't think Montgomery would do as well as he did last year, going into this season. And before his injury, he was doing all right. So it would be tough for me as a coach to say, hey, you got hurt. A guy took your place for a couple weeks and did okay. I just see the pass catching role for Ty Montgomery being too valuable in that offense, especially if one of the receivers goes down. Jordy Nelson could get hurt at any time. Devontae Adams could get hurt at any time. Cobb could get hurt at any player can get hurt at any time. So,
well, and that allows you really an extension of the running game to be able to dump down to Ty Montgomery. And when you got Aaron Rodgers, that's not a bad. If you're not actually literally running the ball, that's kind of an extension of the running game.
Yeah, no, I don't think Ty Montgomery completely goes away. He doesn't. But I just think after they see what they have in Aaron Jones, how can you completely go away from this guy knowing what he brings? Ty Montgomery is always going to bring that pass-catching ability, but I don't think they just go completely away from Aaron Jones.
I would agree. I would agree with that. I see both. I see both points. Aaron Jones is a guy that I believe. I'm pretty sure he went to Texas El Paso, if I'm not mistaken. And the coach of Texas El Paso is actually my cousin, Sean Kugler from Buffalo. So.
Hey, shout out.
Yeah, I hate to inform you, your cousin got fired.
He did. I was going to – you spoiled my surprise.
You stay in touch with the family more. He could use your support right now.
Blunt, man. So blunt. No shame.
You spoiled my surprise. I was going to say, well, I should say was.
God, this is going to make Christmas a little awkward.
Yeah, I mean, he's a good guy, though, and yeah, we'll see where he ends up next, but he'll find somewhere. He coached in the NFL. He's been everywhere, so well traveled for sure.
All right, so let's move on off of Aaron Jones and talk about another guy, another couple of guys here. Now, this is an older question too, but probably still relevant. It came from Rob Hubbard last week. Brandin Cooks or T.Y. Hilton, with Luck coming back supposedly. But anyway, outlook, I guess, for the rest of the season. Let's just break that down, guys. Brandin Cooks or T.Y. Hilton. I'll start with Orlando because I believe you have Brandin Cooks.
Yeah. I mean, as long as Luck, if he does, I mean, we don't even know when because they're expecting him back this week by week 6, and he's not playing. I know they got a bye coming up. But if Luck's back, I'm definitely going T.Y. over Cooks, only because I think Hogan is a number one for the Patriots. I do like Brandin Cooks, but a lot of people took him thinking he was going to be a number one, and I can't say much because I took him my second overall pick thinking he was going to step up, and he's you don't feel too bad about taking Cooks, but you're not getting the production you thought you're going to get out of Cooks. So for that reason, if Luck is back, yes, I'm taking T.Y. over Cooks.
All right. Who wants to go next? Dan?
Yeah, pretty simple. I'm going T.Y. Hilton, even if Luck doesn't come back. I think Brissett is kind of building a chemistry with him. And when it comes to Brandon Cooks, he's just not targeted enough. Brady's going to Hogan. He's going to James White. He's going to other receivers, Amendola, Gronk, obviously. So I think pure volume of targets, Hilton's just going to get more, and he's done more with them this season.
Ryan?
I gotta tell a story. Okay, so in terms of my fantasy draft and my fantasy league, it's not a 14-team league like ours. It's 10. We had 3 keepers going into the draft, and Brandon Cooks was a second round keeper. I was so happy that he was kept that I didn't have to choose between Cooks or Hogan, and that I could take Hogan in the 6th or 7th round because I knew that Brady trusted Hogan, Amendola, Gronkowski, James White, and virtually almost everyone else except that new. I was a little bit weary of Cooks in a new system on a new team. If I was this kid, I would take this trade right now, regardless of whether Luck is there or not. T.Y. Hilton's more targeted, more reliable. Brady likes to spread the ball around. Even with Jacoby Brissett in there, he knows that T.Y. Hilton's the main guy to throw to. That's his main pass catcher. There's just more targets. It's just that simple. So I ended up taking Hogan, and Hogan has been the number 1 receiver for the Patriots up until this point, as Orlando said. So my only question is, you could trade for T.Y. Hilton and hope that Luck comes back, but I don't know if Luck is coming back. I mean, I don't know what you guys have heard, but I haven't heard anything good, alluding to him coming back. So,
well, I think we're getting to the point now where it just doesn't matter.
It really does.
Season's about to be wasted. It's going to get to the point where why even bring him back and risk injury again, or complicating an injury for a lost season.
I don't know if it gets to that. I mean, I see your point. I mean, but the Colts have won some games. So if they're in decent shape and the way that the AFC South is going, even if it's week 8 or 9, I could see Luck coming back as long as the Colts are still in contention.
Well, I don't know. That's a big if. And I don't know. I just they better do it quick. They better do it quick because you also have shaking off the rust time. You have chemistry time. I mean, you're looking at like a 2 to 3 week process to even really get that synchronization back. So, but I'm going exact opposite of you guys. I would say no, hang on to Brandon Cooks because I've had T.Y. Hilton before. He frustrates the hell out of me. It's on and off. It's like a hot cold switch. You never know. And here's the thing with Brandon Cooks is yes, you're right about Hogan getting all the looks and targets right now, Ryan. But we know the Patriots and Bill Belichick could flip that switch in a heartbeat. You never know. You cannot game plan for them. And here's the other thing. Amendola and Gronkowski, as we've already seen, will not stay healthy. Those late season targets are going to have to go somewhere. Brady was leading the league in yardage as of last week. I'm not sure if he is still currently. I didn't look at it. But when I wrote this note last week, he was leading the league in yardage. So I'm going with that guy. I'm staying on Tom Brady's side. And like I said, he's gonna have some injuries, and Brandon Cooks, if he stays healthy, is gonna get some major targets down the stretch. So.
What does it say that you have more confidence in a wide receiver that is catching passes from a 40-year-old than a wide receiver that is catching passes from, let's just say Andrew Luck was healthy? When are the Colts gonna put protection around Andrew Luck? Is it ever going to happen? Will we ever see Andrew Luck with an offensive line around him?
That's the other part of it. I trust this particular season. I trust the Patriots offense way more than I trust the Colts offense. So that has a lot to do with it. But mainly, like I said, I just think Amendola, Gronkowski, you cannot count on those guys. Yes, Kevin Hogan's doing great, but Patriots flip the gameplay up too much. They flip why would you want a Patriot running back? It's kind of the same way. You never know who is going to be the guy from week to week. And same thing with the wide receivers. But I tried to pull a fast one on you, Ryan. I tried to pick up Dwayne Allen because I knew Gronk was out. Okay, Dwayne Allen, finally, it's the week to maybe get half of Gronk's targets. No, he is yet to catch a pass all season. Big fat 0. So you had Tom Brady as your quarterback. I tried to sneak one in on you, so thinking, hey, I may steal a few yards back for a few points back from you by having Dwayne Allen. That backfired.
I'm going to insert a bad joke. It's safe to say that Dwayne Allen is no Aaron Hernandez on the field. And we'll just leave it at that. Far
from it. Probably far from it on and off the field.
Yeah, hopefully off the field too. We'll throw that in there as well.
Yeah, that was bad. I give up. I give up. That was just a bad move.
Yeah.
But okay. Anyway, so we'll kind of leave that right there. Brandin Cooks, T.Y. Hilton. Let's move on. I got another one I'm going to say for a little bit later. It's a good debate, which Kareem Hunt winds up in both of them. So we'll save that for a little bit later. But how about this one? Devin Funchess or Will Fuller, I believe, is the one he was looking for. Will Fuller or Devin Funchess for the rest of the year. J.C. Gonzalez, this is from last week. Dan, what do you think? Going forward, rest of the year, would you rather have Devin Funchess or Will Fuller of Houston?
Now, both when they came into the draft, I had them as busts, and it kind of hasn't worked out that way. Funchess, I mean, it's taken him a few years, and Will Fuller kind of busted out last year at times and has looked good, in his limited duty this year. I would go Devin Funchess all the way. I just think he's going to end up being that number one wide receiver in Carolina. He's kind of already overtaking Kelvin Benjamin, so he's going to get more targets. Will Fuller, he's still going to put up solid numbers, but he's always going to be a number 2 behind Hopkins. So just based on pure volume, I think Funchess is going to be the better wide receiver to own. And as we've seen the last few weeks, Cam Newton's starting to turn it on, recover from that offseason shoulder surgery. So I'm going Funchess all the way.
I was kind of on the side of whoever, and this was a week ago, so this was take away another amazing week for Deshaun Watson. Okay, now that's kind of changed the complexity of this question for me even further. But I guess I'm kind of in the camp. I know it's hard to predict right now, but which one of those guys is going to lose a teammate first? We thought it may have been Kelvin Benjamin a couple weeks ago. It turned out to be nothing. Then, like Dan mentioned, DeAndre Hopkins. So I think it's really going to depend on if one of those guys' teammates goes down, then they could be in line for a really, really increased role. But that's a tough call for me, man. I don't know. I really liked Will Fuller last year, then ran into some injury difficulties, and now he's gone through like 4 quarterbacks too, so that's not helping. But I think Watson may finally be the man, and I kind of like Will Fuller here, although Carolina is clicking. Ryan, what say you?
This is a tough one. This is a tough one for sure. The one thing that you kind of alluded to with Houston is that it seems like Houston has completely taken the training wheels, so to speak, off of Deshaun Watson. They've let him throw when he wants to throw. They've let him virtually run their offense. However, he fits, however their offense fits his strengths, it's suited towards him. Everything is suited towards him. Although they do have Lamar Miller, who's a quality running back, they're letting Watson spread the field. They're letting him do what he needs to do. And Will Fuller and Hopkins, obviously, have been the 2 guys, that have been the key playmakers for that. I watch a lot of Carolina games due to the fact that one of my best friends is a big Carolina Panthers fan. You don't know what you're going to get sometimes with Carolina. Sometimes Cam throws it to, we'll see. We saw last week Ed Dixon had a huge game. Benjamin could sometimes have a huge game. Then one week they'll just try to run it down a team's throat. I'm gonna go with the Notre Dame Fighting Irishman, Will Fuller, and go with that.
Orlando?
I'm going to say Funchess. I do like Will Fuller, but I think the other night he had a couple of catches and like 2 on 1 for like touchdowns. He's getting the catches, but I think Will Fuller, I think Funchess, he's making more out of his targets with the yardage. And yeah, I think he's just the same thing as Dan alluded to. He's taking over the role of the number 1 there over Kelvin Benjamin. So we're talking about rest of season. I do like Fuller. But I like him as a flex wide receiver 2, whereas Funchess I like as your wide receiver 1. So it's rest of season. I'm sticking with Funchess.
Yep, it's a tough call. I like Funchess going into the season. I meant to draft him. He was on my radar. It just didn't work out that way in the 2 leagues that I played in. 2, not 6. Orlando. Yeah, I'm not even going to ask Ryan. I'm not even going to ask Ryan because Ryan is screenshotting scores from places I've never heard of before every single week on Facebook. So, I mean, he's claiming he's undefeated in a league every single week. So he must be in like 14 leagues.
I am 4-1 in every league so far. So,
how many is that?
4 leagues. So.
Okay.
So I wanted Devin Funchess actually, and my friend Dex, he's the dumbest, and I hope he's watching this right now. His move limit is so stupid. Each week you get 3 moves. I had my defense on bye this week. I wanted to use that move on Devin Funchess. Couldn't make it happen. But to answer this question, though, Will Fuller in that league was already owned, and it's a 12-team league. So maybe that could answer all of our questions.
Yeah, that's a shame. I feel for you, Ryan. I really feel for you. It's too bad. Let's have some fun with the question next. This was from last week from Ryan Majoni, and he wants to know, we're a quarter away through the season, so give me your biggest bust so far this season. And of course I had Andy Dalton right up there at the top, but as Orlando would probably know, Andy Dalton has climbed out of that hole. He ain't doing so bad anymore. So another one, I got the New York Giants, the whole damn team, and then ODB, which went down now, so that's not even really funny. I wanted to talk about that last week, because he's really been a disappointment, but as the whole Giants team was, but Odell Beckham Jr. specifically, now that he's gone, it's not even really anything to make light of. And then the guy I told y'all in our piece was going to be DeMarco Murray, which is somewhat has been a bust, depending on when you drafted him. Matt Aguirre in our league of the People's Podcast. At this time, he was 0-4. I'm not sure if he won last week or not, but he was drafted 20th overall in our league. And here's a side note, guys. Orlando knows this, but I'm trying to trade Matt Ryan since I pulled the brilliant move of picking up Deshaun Watson, and now I would roll with Deshaun Watson. So I tried to trade Matt Ryan for DeMarco Murray, and it didn't work out. So I'm not even getting that. And then I'll try to pick up Doug Martin from Orlando. Orlando, why are you dissing me like that, dog? You need a quarterback. Both your quarterbacks are on bye weeks. I'm trying to do you a favor.
I see that, but I got no running backs. I'm rolling with Elijah McGuire from running back 2. You know how disgusting that is? So to give
that's somebody I dropped. You're doing real horrible then if you're picking up somebody I dropped.
Where are my invites or my trade? I have a roster full of undefeated guys. I only have Mariota. I mean, I had 100% last week. You could at least throw me an offer. I'll give you Jonathan Williams.
I need a running back, Dan, and you're not trading Kareem Hunt or Todd Gurley, so I skipped right over you.
I'm not. But I got Marlon Mack. Marlon Mack will tear it up for you.
Okay.
There you go.
I'm undefeated.
Wow. Okay, we know.
Okay. All right.
Let me just grab my coffee cup here. I got Zeke and Fournette, so I'm good.
Well, you're out of coffee.
Yeah, you're doing good. Dan really kind of got lucky, struck magic. He predicted Todd Gurley to have a bounce back year, and he has. And then he was on the Kareem Hunt bandwagon from the get-go, and that's turned out brilliantly for you. And then Ryan, you got lucky that Ezekiel didn't miss any games.
I did. That was nice. What is the situation on that? Is that cleared up? Like, is that tossed aside, or are they going to bring it back up, or what's going on?
It's not completely cleared up, but I think there's very little chance you'll see him miss any games this year. He'll probably serve a suspension similar to Brady. He got his year, and then he'll come back next year and be suspended. But it's not officially cleared up, but I don't expect him to be suspended.
And to be fair, that's exactly what Dan said from the get-go, yet most of us were still shied off of Zeke Elliott in the drafts. And it wasn't just our league. It was many leagues. He went from like the second or third pick overall to a lot of leagues, probably an average of, what would you say, Dan, 15 to 20?
Yeah, I would say that's probably good.
What'd you get him at, Ryan?
I think in this league, I actually took him 11th. But I knew that when he was there, I thought if I let him go by, he doesn't get suspended.
That was your first round pick then, though.
Yeah, okay. He was. Yep.
Okay. So anyway, you guys busts. Dan, who's been your bust so far this season? We'll advance it a week for you. You got one more week of bonus. So who's been the biggest bust to you this year?
Yeah, I have a couple. In one league, I was the guy that drafted Andrew Luck. I didn't draft him super early. I got him in like about the 9th or 10th round, but still hasn't played a game. And I drafted him to be my starting quarterback. So I was lucky to be able to.
We were thinking a lot of people, they were predicting like a week.
Yeah. I mean, we heard from your boy Greg Doyle of the Indianapolis Star. I know you guys go out for drinks a lot and hang out, but. We heard from him that there's no way Andrew Luck was going to be placed on the PUP list to start the year. So, and he wasn't. So I took that as, okay, he's probably going to play, maybe miss a week like he's just said.
And after he did that to you, Dan, we hadn't had drinks since then. That was the final straw.
Well, Greg Doyle, get at New Breed. He wants to go out for a little coffee and chips.
I have no interest in anything Indianapolis Colts, period.
He needs to drown his sorrows.
Who, me or Greg Doyle?
So Andrew Luck's on that list, and then I do have a guy that I drafted in a different league than our league that I know, Brandon, you feel the pain every single week is Isaiah Crowell. I thought he was going to be a legit RB1 in fantasy this year, and he is not even rosterable. I mean, he was just dropped in a separate 14-man league that I'm in. And when you're dropping
Isaiah, so much better. Duke Johnson has been so much better.
Yep, and especially in PPR formats. I mean, he's dominating those type of touches. So if Crowell is being dropped in deep leagues like that, I mean, that tells you their owners have had enough, because he's been a top 3 pick, or top 3 of the first 3 rounds. I would say he's been selected in the most part in those type of leagues.
Well, you know exactly what's happening there, though, Dan. The Browns are the Browns again. They're sucking. They're getting behind. They're having to abandon the running game, and Duke Johnson can do so much more than what Isaiah Crowell can.
Yeah. I mean, he's a huge receiving threat, and Crowell is that tackle-to-tackle first and second down back, and when you're forced to throw on first and second down, he's not going to see the field much.
Orlando, so who's been your biggest bust this year? You can't say Andy Dalton because he bounced back for you.
No, and usually I'll consider busts guys you take within between the first 3 rounds.
Right.
But one of the biggest busts for me, I don't have in this league, but I have in another league, has been Jay Ajayi. And for where he was going, I think a lot of people were expecting an RB1. I was expecting a bounce back season. I like the volume he's getting. He got this past week against the Titans, he got 25 carries. So the volume's there. I don't think it's completely Ajayi that, the line's a mess, but just, where you took him as, and you probably took him as your number 1 running back, he's been a bust so far. And being that he had a bye week 1, you kind of don't know what to do with him. You probably won't get much from him in a trade. And another guy I want to touch on is Terrell Pryor. I think he's been a bust because I think a lot of guys drafted him within the first, either 2nd or 3rd round pick. And if it wasn't for that touchdown against the Chiefs on the Monday night before their bye, I mean, his stat line doesn't look that good. It's still early in the season, but from, where he was drafted as and what we've seen, those 2 guys have been busts for me.
Don't you think Kirk Cousins is looking around much like Cam Newton looked around about 4 years or so ago when they got rid of all the talent, when Steve Smith made the exit out of Carolina, and they got rid of all the talent around Cam? Isn't Kirk Cousins kind of feeling that way now? I mean, he's got Jordan Reed back, but, no more Deshaun, no more Pierre Garçon, and just looking around, it just ain't the same.
Yeah, no, and then the same thing with just building that chemistry with Terrell Pryor. So, yeah, I don't know. It's just the way it's working out. It hasn't been the spark that they thought they were going to get in Washington.
So, Mr. Thomas Take, I know you're doing great. You're 4-1. You don't draft bust. It's just not what you do. But looking around the league and placing your assessment on everyone else, what's been the biggest bust of the league so far?
You know what? While I am 4-1 every league that I'm in, this one hurts.
No kidding.
This one hurts because I'm going to go out and talk about a guy that he's my boy. He's on my team that I root for each and every Sunday, the Buffalo Bills. I'd say LeSean McCoy. Realistically, his stock is trending downward. If I had LeSean McCoy on any of my teams, which I'm thankful that I didn't get him, I would try to ship him off to someone because all their weapons are falling apart. Charles Clay is hurt. Jordan Matthews got hurt. Tyrod Taylor can't throw the ball more than 10 yards down the field. So the defenses know that LeSean McCoy has to be heavily relied upon, more than any other running back in the league, in my opinion.
I thought it was like that last year too, though.
It was like that last year too, for sure. But obviously he's a year older, and I think that is eventually going to come back to bite him. As soon as running backs hit 30, that's usually it. I don't know if he has a touchdown yet this season. I'd have to look at that, but I don't think he does. If I were to say a running back bust, it would be LeSean McCoy. If I were to do a wide receiver bust, it would have to be Amari Cooper. The game against the Redskins, I believe, I was actually praying that he would have a bad night, and he had a horrendous night. So I think that this guy was somebody that most people took in the third, fourth, maybe at the latest fifth round. And I know Derek Carr is hurt, but even before Derek Carr was hurt, Amari Cooper was just I'm pretty sure he leads the league in drops. He's been a complete disappointment, and I would have never have guessed that.
It seems like even since late last year, Michael Crabtree has been the guy to own of the receiving group in Oakland. He seems to have those bigger days, the more 2-touchdown days for Oakland. But for your LeSean McCoy bust, no touchdowns this year, but he is averaging 11.7 points per game in our league. He's not doing bad. Put up 20.5 the first week, 6 the second week. That's his only down week. Almost 10 at 9.5 the third week, then 11.5 and 11. So not the numbers he was putting up last year, but me personally, I would take that in a heartbeat. Sure as hell is better than Terrence West and Isaiah Crowell.
It's tough to put Shady in that, but I think like you said, 11 points per week on average. But I expected him to do much better. But now that the pieces around him are crumbling, it's like he's being keyed on. Defenses are preparing themselves only for him because you guys know I'm not a big Tyrod fan, and it's only going to get worse from here for McCoy. I wouldn't be shocked if he got hurt.
So, but how's the Tyrod thing going? And I know I've probably mentioned this before, but after the success Buffalo has had, and let's face it, they've had some pretty major success based on what people thought this
100%. Yeah, 100%.
Are people still down on Tyrod then? Or
there are the group of Bills fans that I call the Bills realists, and then there's the Bills faithful, where the Bills faithful always try to see the Bills in a positive light, even when they know that there is a problem staring them in the face. And if you watched even a quarter of last week's game versus Cincinnati, they can't throw the ball. No matter who they have at wide receiver, they could have Jerry Rice out there. They cannot throw the ball because the quarterback is so hesitant. I don't know if it's a height issue where he can't see over the line. I don't know if it's a confidence issue and the lack of chemistry that he's got with his receivers. Everybody talks about how Zay Jones has had a bad rookie start to his season. Zay Jones didn't even really, catch passes from Tyrod Taylor up until the regular season started. They were working with Nate Peterman because they had Watkins and Anquan Bolden at the time. So, and then Tyrod got hurt in the preseason. So the chemistry just isn't there right now. So it's in that regard, that's not necessarily Tyrod's fault, but really one receiver has been successful and now he's hurt, and that's Charles Clay, and he's a tight end. So I think that Tyrod, I've said this before the season started, I think this is his last year here. I don't think they won those games versus Atlanta and versus Denver because of Tyrod. I think they won because their defense is much better than what they originally thought. And their quarterback hadn't turned the ball over. That's one thing that Tyrod doesn't do. He doesn't turn the ball over. But you're not going to see Tyrod Taylor throw for 250, 300 yards. And at some point, he's going to have to do that. If they want to make the playoffs, he's going to have to go drive for drive.
Would they be in the same position if Nathan Peterman had been the starting quarterback from week one?
I think Nathan Peterman gives them more of a chance at a better passing game, regardless of who they have in terms of their weapons, because Nathan Peterman is a natural passer and Tyrod Taylor's not. Does that mean that they would have a better record? who knows? Sometimes being the fact that a guy's a more natural passer, that could mean more turnovers. So it's kind of apples and oranges talk. We're kind of comparing one player that is afraid to throw the ball because he knows that he's got some physical limitations. So therefore, the benefit in that is that he doesn't turn the ball over. Whereas Nate Peterman might want to throw the ball, but he could turn the ball over. We honestly don't know because Peterman hasn't seen a snap. So only time will tell, I guess.
So, Dan, let's wrap this one up. Here is your AFC East standings right now. The Buffalo Bills are at top, technically 3-2. Jets at 3-2 in second place. And the Patriots in third place at 3-2. And the Dolphins in last place at 2-2. What a mess. Complete flip-flop of what people would have predicted. And the Bills are going to collapse. And the Jets are just faking it, Dan, right? I mean, they got 3 wins. Most people predicted them not to have more than 1 or 2 wins, period, if not 0-16. What is going on in that AFC East you're so close to, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, I wrote on the site last week in our pick'em that the Bills were the luckiest 3-1 team that I've ever seen in my entire life. They're 3-2 right now, but they are very close to being a 1-4 team, and I honestly believe that's more where their talent level is. I mean, they're a most ridiculous Von Miller personal foul penalty away from losing to the Broncos, and against the Falcons, they got lucky with Julio and Sanu both going out of that Atlanta passing game. So I think they're very lucky to be 3-2. I don't see that continuing. Obviously, same with the Jets. I think they've had a lighter of a schedule. I don't think the Dolphins are as good. One of their wins. Obviously, another one is over the Browns. So I don't think the Jets are that well, but that's what Josh McCown does every once in a while is he can put together a string of 5 to 6 solid games where he doesn't turn the ball. Solid defense, just like Buffalo. So I think ultimately we're going to see New England on top, and that's going to be who wins the East. And it really doesn't matter who 2, 3, or 4 are because they're not playoff teams.
So last word on that AFC East. The Patriots are 1-2 at home and have given up 35 more points than anyone else in that division. Horrible defense. Crazy division. Crazy.
Brandon, I would like to call that the Stephon Gilmore effect.
It can't be just that, though.
No, it's not just that. But really, I mean, they had a lot of – who's the defensive end that they drafted, that Derek Rivers? I really liked him, and I'm pretty sure he's out for the entire year. So they've had their fair share of injuries on both sides of the ball. Luckily for them, the guy that they really need each and every week is still healthy, quote-unquote healthy, in Tom Brady. But I agree with Dan. I think that the AFC East is New England's to take and New England's to lose. I don't see Buffalo continuing this stretch whatsoever.
No, it's got to work itself out, and the Jets just aren't good. And anybody who is claiming wins over Cleveland, it just doesn't count either. So Miami only has, I think, 1 touchdown scored on year. So let's not buy that hype either. Even at 2-3 or 2-2 after missing the first week. So, but anyway, man, a lot of conversation there. Let's answer more mailbag questions coming up next. You're listening to and watching My Fantasy Podcast from MyFantasySportsTalk.com. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks for clicking. Thanks for doing what you do. Thanks for being there. Thanks for submitting questions every single week. Even when we don't have a show, you submit the questions and you get mad about it. And I get mad about it when I make color-coded notes that I don't even get to and all that. Pretty stuff going on here, but let's roll on. So, here's a trade scenario from Garrett Ferguson, guys. I have been offered this trade. I give up Thomas Rawls. I give up Thomas Rawls and Aaron Rodgers. I get Isaiah Crowell and Matt Stafford. Should I accept? I'm going first on this one, guys, because I feel like I should because I got Thomas Rawls and Isaiah Crowell. No. Because you're basically trading Aaron Rodgers for Matt Stafford. Crowell is a RB1 bust with several exclamation points behind that. Duke Johnson's the guy we talked about earlier. Duke Johnson's the guy in Cleveland, and he's got that offense just wrapped around his finger right now. So no, Rawls I think has more upside, honestly, than Crowell for the rest of the season, sadly, because Pete Carroll keeps saying that Rawls is going to split time as the number one guy at the very least. So if he's healthy and gets the chances, then that's what he's going to be. I've already had enough of Crowell, so I've got them both. I say do not do that. Do not give up Thomas Rawls and Rodgers for Isaiah Crowell and Matt Stafford, because basically what it's boiling down to is those running backs cancel themselves out. You're trading Aaron Rodgers for Matt Stafford, right, Dan?
Yeah, everything you said, I don't need to say anymore. It's the exact same. I mean, and Aaron Rodgers for Matthew Stafford is how you look at that trade.
Orlando?
Yeah, no, I'm not making that trade at all. Especially the way Stafford's been playing. He's a good quarterback, but he's been playing more conservative. So I'm not making that trade at all.
Oh, well, there we go. This is going to be a quick one. Ryan, any alternate opinion on this one?
I would get that trade offer, read it, and then send a counteroffer that says, why, with a question mark, and see what the person – that's just a terrible offer. I just wouldn't even consider it.
That's a terrible offer. That's nothing like a Matt Ryan for Doug Martin. Now, that's a good offer. That is a really good offer. And someone who has two quarterbacks on bye this week, that's a really good offer from a really good guy who should have been accepted, but it wasn't. Only Orlando knows what I'm talking about. Okay, so that was easy. Do not do that. Do not do that at all. All right, so let's move on. Thanks for the question, Garrett. The next one is from Jacob Fox. Hey, guys, I need your help. I have Goff as my quarterback. You need help. No kidding. Go no further. Don't even need to say anymore. Should I keep him, play Case Keenum, or pick up Josh McCown? This is from Jacob Fox. So I'm thinking your options are not great. This is just an ugly, ugly question. I mean, if I'm having to decide and I'm looking like Jared Goff is your best option, then you don't have any options. You don't want McCown. McCown is not an option. I like Case Keenum. Case Keenum should probably still be the starting quarterback in Los Angeles, if you want to know my opinion. But I'm not relying on Bradford anymore either. And here's another wrinkle to that Minnesota situation, guys. Teddy Bridgewater is on schedule to be reactivated next week. So I don't know what he has left in the tank after a gruesome injury, but just throw that wrinkle into the mix. Teddy Bridgewater could be in that mix at quarterback in Minnesota again very, very soon. So I don't know, man. At this point, I'm saying I don't know. I don't even know where to go with your question. You know how I feel about Jared Goff. I'll say this. I think Case Keenum has the better options to work with right now when you have two guys just killing it with Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen. I like that. No more Delvin Cook, but I like the receivers that you have. So I might even go Case Keenum there. So Orlando.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Case Keenum at home. I mean, but come on. Looking at Goff's numbers, he hasn't been that bad fantasy-wise.
It's actually been decent, you know.
I know he's got the Jaguars this week, so for that reason, I will go Keenum. Although McCown's not a bad pickup, you know, they're at home, and the Patriots' defense does not scare you. I think they're at the bottom in the standings. So even if you go with McCown, that's, you know, I know the receiving options aren't that pretty, but when the Patriots' defense is just scaring you, so McCown's a solid option as well.
Damn.
I would actually go Goff. The matchup isn't great with Jacksonville. I'm not a fan of Goff personally, but that running game gives the ability with play action to open up the passing game. And I just like Sean McVay. I think he is one of those few quarterback whisperers who's going to be able to – I mean, look at what he's done with Jared Goff. Jared Goff didn't even know how to make a play call in a huddle last year. And now he's, you know, consistently throwing for close to 300 yards and a couple scores. So – I like Jared Goff, no matter the matchup when it comes to this group. The downside that I see to Case Keenum is obviously with the Dalvin Cook injury, it hurts their running game. Jerick McKinnon looked decent against Chicago, but I wouldn't expect that on a week-in, week-out basis. We would have seen it before from Jerick McKinnon. He's been around. He's given his opportunities to start when AP has gone down, and we haven't really seen anything. So I'm just worried about that Minnesota offense as a whole. It's not going to be pretty, I don't believe. Keenum's solid, but I think Goff is the better quarterback right now.
A sad day in the NFL when that is the case. Yep. What is going on? Anyway, so Ryan, what do you say?
To go with Goff as well. For the reasons that Dan stated, he kind of took the words out of my mouth. Sean McVay has done a fantastic job with the Los Angeles Rams in terms of highlighting Goff's skill set, highlighting the receiver's skill set. You mentioned Case Keenum's weapons. I really like the weapons that Goff has at his in his repertoire with Gurley, Woods, Watkins, Kupp. I like their offense. They're young, they're up and coming. I don't know what the ceiling is. Obviously, we know the limitations that Goff has, so the ceiling could it might not be as high as what that after that Thursday night football game. Everybody was just going crazy over the LA Rams, and they are a much better team than they were last year, but I wouldn't say that they're a playoff team just yet. But I would, if I was choosing between those three quarterbacks, I'd go Goff 100%.
Okay, so we're all definitely saying you can throw Josh McCown out of the scenario altogether. Don't even worry about it. But I guess we're all saying Jared Goff. Believe that or not, that's crazy. So let's do one more question. Good scenario here. Now this is going to be the elite of the elite. This is the top tier of your running backs right here. Last week we got a question submitted by Tom Fent, and he wanted to know between Kareem Hunt and Todd Gurley. So this week, we have a question from Casey Young. He wants to know between Kareem Hunt or Leonard Fournette. So all those guys, let's just we're going to mix all three of them in together, guys, for one final big mailbag question. Kareem Hunt, Todd Gurley, or Leonard Fournette. I know, Ryan, I'll be honest, one of the big reasons why you put me over the hump and did me in last week was Leonard Fournette broke off like a huge 60-yard run or so, which really kind of did me in. You would have won anyway outside that run, but when I saw that run, that's when I stopped watching the score because that completely did me in with Leonard Fournette. So Leonard Fournette, Kareem Hunt, or Todd Gurley for let's just say the rest of the season, guys. What are we thinking? Ryan, we'll start with you since you got Leonard Fournette.
I think Leonard Fournette is a man among boys. He was in college. He is in the NFL. This dude is, I don't know how many years he'll play in the league, maybe 7, maybe 8. If he's lucky. He's taken a pounding. He's a bruiser running back. But I definitely love the guy. I think he's a fantastic running back. He's an old school runner playing in a different era. You put him in any era, he's going to succeed. I would have to say, I like Fournette. Dan knows my opinion on Todd Gurley. He really burned me last year, but I know Todd Gurley is one of the most skilled running backs in the NFL. Bright future, along with his other the other running back that came out of the same draft with him and Melvin Gordon. My main worry about Kareem Hunt, although he had the hot start that he had, I'm worried that Kareem Hunt doesn't have the frame to hold up the workload as the season wears on. When we're in the dog days in November and December, that does worry me a little bit. And I think that they'd be quick to kind of play the hot hand if Kareem Hunt starts to struggle. They'd put in Charcandrick West or whoever they have. Kansas City finds running backs, like they're apples on a tree. So I would go Gurley and Fournette.
Okay, I just wanted to cut in there because I'm saying exactly what you're saying, Ryan. I think Leonard Fournette is going to be the back out of all these guys. We'll see what happens with Gurley, but between Fournette and Kareem Hunt, I think Leonard Fournette's going to have the best pro career for the next 4 years because he is a beast. He is a man among boys out there. Said it from the get-go. Hey, this NFL gig in so hard and just come out just killing. So I like that dude a lot. And I believe a lot of what you're saying there with Kareem Hunt, and I also believe it's a lot to do with the system, because we thought it was going to be Spencer Ware this year. If he wouldn't have got hurt, who knows? So, Charcandrick West is putting up big numbers. I picked him up this week because he's doing better than most of my running backs, or all my running backs, just getting scrap points. So I believe it's the system. A lot of it has to do with the system in Kansas City. And Todd Gurley, we'll see. I don't know, but I guess I'm just kind of prisoner of moment. Big hot rookie right now. Leonard Fournette is who I would have to say if I was guessing. I'd like to have either one of them, or any of them. Orlando, what do you think about this trio of guys?
I'm actually going to go Kareem Hunt. He's a real deal. I love Fournette, but I want to go opposite of what Ryan said. And come on. Just the physical style of play. He invites the hits. Look at this Pittsburgh game. He was inviting the hits, and it's exciting to see. He's a great player, but some of the foot injuries he's had, and all players have injuries. But he's talking about Kareem Hunt's frame going into the deeper weeks. I'm worried about Fournette. Getting 20+ carries a week. Eventually, he's going to wear the guy down. Where Kareem Hunt,
he had 28 last week. That's the thing. Fournette's carries are going up. He had 28 last week.
Whereas Kareem Hunt, he's getting a lot of carries. You mix in Charcandrick West, but I think going deeper into the season, I think Hunt might be a little fresher compared to the workload that Fournette's going in. You can't go wrong with either guy, but if you got to go with me, I'm still taking Hunt over Fournette, and it's pretty close between all three. You can't go wrong with either one, but I prefer Hunt.
So let's go to the man of the hour, because he has two of these three guys. He has Kareem Hunt and Todd Gurley, so he doesn't really give a flip. He's not going to say Leonard Fournette, that's for sure. Wasn't really high on Leonard Fournette anyway, I don't think. But
hater.
Dan the Man Chalk, if you had to rank these guys right now, and just pick one, who's top dog out of all these three?
Yeah, it's Kareem Hunt, and it's really not even close. If we're looking at a fantasy perspective for the rest of the season, it's Kareem Hunt. He's obviously in the first few weeks, he's done a lot better. Fournette had a great breakout game, but he's had a lot of duds. I mean, a touchdown has saved his day on multiple weeks a couple times. I mean, there were 2 straight games where he averaged 2.1 yards per carry with 15 to 20 touches. So that has a lot to do with the Jacksonville offensive line not being very good. But I think if you're looking at it a sole fantasy perspective for the rest of the season, it's Kareem Hunt. He's in the better system. He has the better offensive line. He's more dynamic in the passing game, which is actually kind of not talked about enough, I think, with Kareem Hunt. He's been targeted 17 times this year. He's caught 16 balls, and the one pass was an overthrow. So he has a 94.1% catch rate, but it's actually 100%. He's dynamic in that passing game. The Chiefs' offense is just better than all three of those teams, the Rams, Jags, and Chiefs. And he's just overall a better player at this point, fantasy-wise. And not only that, you look at those touches, Leonard Fournette is out-touching him, his 200 less yards than him. Hunt's averaging over 6 yards a carry, Fournette barely 4. So if you're looking at it at who you want to score more fantasy points, it's going to be Kareem Hunt.
Well, I'll wrap this one up and just tell Dan that Leonard Fournette does have 5 touchdowns in his first 5 NFL games, so not doing that bad. Scored a touchdown in every game but one. So
touchdown dependent, not yards.
Can I chime in on what Orlando said just a little bit? He was saying how he was worried about his workload, and as Brandon said, 4 years. The next 4 years, I think Fournette is going to be the best one out of those 3, as Brandon said. But you're not really taking much of a pounding when you're running away from people. So
I'd be surprised if Kareem Hunt is the starting running back, whether it be due to injury or what have you, by the end of the year. It's just the Kansas City. It's the Kansas City system.
I agree with Brandon.
It's the Kansas City system.
Dan, do you hear what they're saying? Dan,
I don't understand. It doesn't make any sense. It's like picking the Thunder to win the NBA championship.
Kareem Hunt was David Fluellen's backup at Toledo.
Okay. Cool.
That
means absolutely nothing.
He's a phase, just like Priest Holmes was,
Jamal Charles.
We're talking about fantasy for this.
Niall Davis. The list goes on and on. Jamal Charles is the only consistent piece in that Kansas City backfield in the last 5 or 6 years.
But I'm not talking about length of career. I'm talking about this season for fantasy, like the question has.
It's been a great start. It's been a great start.
And you think he's not even going to start? He's going to get benched?
Or get hurt, yeah.
let's just let our crew, the 1-4 bottom place Brandon is giving that advice.
4-1 thinks that Kareem Hunt will get hurt.
You're a homer because you have Fournette. But I mean,
I've made
to throw out records out here.
I got
if you combine mine and Orlando's record, we're 8-2.
Good. I've made the greatest.
What's this combining crap? Come on.
We're going with Kareem Hunt. Orlando knows what's up. Come on, I give him enough flack, but he's smart enough to at least realize.
Were we talking about Kareem Hunt as an RB1 before Spencer Ware got hurt?
I was. Yes, I
was. Dan was, but it took a Spencer Ware injury to make that happen. And let's face it, it's the same old Chiefs, guys. They dominate in the regular season. We've seen the story before.
Well, needed fantasy.
Fold in the playoffs. Come on now.
I'm not saying they're going to win the Super Bowl. I'm just saying Kareem Hunt will end with more fantasy points.
Well, at least the Chiefs make the playoffs. I don't know about the Jags.
All right. Enough football talk. Great conversation.
Fournette Rookie of the Year.
Hey, we might be going that way. Yeah, he's beasting out. This NFL ain't that hard, guys. This NFL
it's not
that hard.
Seriously. So easy for Fournette.
More bigger of a deal of it than it is. All right, so that's it. That's the end of this week's show. Appreciate it, guys. Dan's got to get off to Florida, but thanks for Orlando for being here and talking it all up. Ryan Thomas from Thomas Take as well. Check out his podcast on YouTube, and everything else going on the site right now. Dan, last word on the site. A whole lot going on.
Yeah. I mean, entertainment section is blowing up. Orlando's dropping fantasy football articles almost every day. We're getting a bunch of WWE coverage going on with predictions from Hell in the Cell to the whole bunch of things that I honestly couldn't tell you too much about, but the section can tell you about it. So, yeah, I mean, we're blowing up. Brandon is going to be busy in my absence because our writers are just pumping out articles, and he's going to hate me probably, but the site will have your material. So as always, visit myfantasysportstalk.com. So you're going to get everything from fantasy football, NFL, NBA season starting up. So I know we have some NBA writers who are looking to get some new material out there. And of course the entertainment section covering everything from movies to TV shows to music. So it's definitely a whole variety of topics to check out.
And in case you missed it, the Jordan brand said they're no longer making Melo brand shoes. Carmelo Anthony's signature shoe.
They wouldn't do that if they thought they were going to win the championship.
Yeah.
Brandon, can I cut a promo in the words of in the WWE terms?
Why not?
Cut a promo right now.
We've done just about everything else on this show, so sure, go for it.
All right. November 4th, Madison Square Garden Arena, New York City. Michael Bisping takes on the GOAT, which stands for greatest of all time. George St. Pierre comes back to fight Michael Bisping for the UFC middleweight title. Co-main event, bitter rivals Cody Garbrandt versus TJ Dillashaw. A fight 5 years in the making. Joanna Jędrzejczyk versus Rose Namajunas. Two badass chicks are going to throw leather. There's going to be a lot of blood, a lot of violence. I'm going to be on the My Fantasy Sports Talk Facebook page to cover it, predict it, preview it, and obviously give my post-fight reaction. This is a pay-per-view that if you have $50-$60, spend it. Do not miss this pay-per-view. You're going to witness history.
Bisping knockout round one, I heard. He's going to knock out that George St. Pierre real quick. Yep.
They all talk, but they got nothing to say once the fight's over.
Something tells me we'll hear more about that on myfantasysportstalk.com, whether it be through articles. Orlando will probably chime in, all the other MMA writers, and, of course, Ryan Thomas Take on our Facebook Live page and on his own podcast, Thomas Take. So however you join us, we appreciate it. We got so much going on. You got to check in with us every single week on myfantasysportstalk.com. Check out our podcast on YouTube. Check out the replays on YouTube. If you don't catch us live, check us out on WBLZ Sports as their lineup of great podcasts grows. And we're right there, prime time, 3 to 5 Eastern time, every Friday on WBLZ Sports. And check us out on SoundCloud. All those different ways. Doesn't matter how you join us. Just join us. And thanks for joining us. Keep submitting your questions. Until next week. See you later, podcast peeps. Peace.